Hello and welcome to a Blowing Bubbles edition of Your Shout. Well, it's not really a Your Shout, it's more an Ask Gonzo. The premise is that loads of the writers from Blowing Bubbles magazine send in little video clips and they ask me questions and they get a chance to advertise what's going on in the Blowing Bubbles magazines. As you can see, I'm a big fan. I actually know a lot of the writers, a lot of them are my mates, and they get to advertise what's going on in the most recent edition of the magazine, which is also available online. I think David's going to tell you about that. Now, as in keeping with the rules of Your Shout, I've listened to the first 5 seconds of each clip just to make sure the audio is all right. Aside from that, I'm just going to run it through and I will answer the questions naturally as they come. So I don't know what's going to be spoken about, although having seen the front cover, although I don't know where it's gone. I did have it. There's a Dad's Army edition thing on the front cover, so which I think sort of relates to the march. So I do think a lot of this is going to be about the march. Anyway, over to David, and then I'll be back to answer his question.
Hi Gonzo mate, I hope you're doing well. It is March, and this is the latest edition of Blowing Bubbles. As you can see, we've gone for a Dad's Army themed front. What do you think of all the ways we've done it? And leading on the front, it says, "Who do you think you're kidding, Mr. Sullivan?" And very much a lot of the talk and content in this month's issue is about the on-off march. Are we going to march? Aren't we going to march? Should we march in protest? And I think Phil Parkes makes a very interesting point where he says that actually a march isn't going to have any impact on what happens at West Ham United. So, Gonzo, my question for you is, do you think that Gold and Sullivan really care about the long-term future of West Ham United?
Okay, thanks, David. He's kicked me off with a good one there. Of course, I think they care about what happens at the future of West Ham United. At the end of the day, you either believe they're fans or you believe that they have made a financial investment. Now, as time goes on, increasingly more and more people think it is just a financial investment. But whether they're fans or investors, they've got to care what happens to West Ham. So, do I think they're sort of plotting and planning the demise of West Ham? Do I think that all our failings have been planned? No, I think they're purely accidental. I think they probably think they're doing the right thing. I honestly think that David Sullivan believes that he is a good recruiter of players. I think he feels that he recruits the right managers. I think, as you saw in the accounts, he's listed in the accounts as acting as the director of football. I think he believes he's done a good job at that. I think he believes that he's capable of doing that. So I think that the intentions are to do well. It's just that none of those things are true. He doesn't recruit. He's very good managers. His record is actually appalling at it. His record of relegations is appalling. There's a case to be made that they're actually not particularly good at running football clubs. But the other counter-argument would be, look what they bought Birmingham for, and then they sold it for 80 million. Look what they bought West Ham for. Would they be able to sell it for more now? Yes, and I think that is what they probably are good at, which is buying football clubs and selling them on for a profit. So I do think they do care about the future and about what happens to West Ham up until the point that they sell it. What I did want to notice, David, about your magazine is, I don't know where my one's gone, as I say, but you've got Stuart Pearce, and you've got a number of players all dressed up as the Dad's Army cast, and they're all in army uniform. But there's Jordan Hugill on there, and the funny thing is, in an army uniform, I don't think he's going to see active service for West Ham at all. But that was a strange signing. I mean, do we put that one down to Moyes? Do we put that one down to David Sullivan? Who knows? But in answer to your question, I think they care. I just don't think they're very good at doing the right thing. Right. Thanks for that, mate. Who have we got up next? Emily.
Hey, Gonzo. It's Emily from Blowing Bubbles magazine. In our latest issue, we had a pub talk question about the planned protest march before the Burnley game that was then called off. And given what we now know about that day and how much fun it was watching our team lose 3-0 to Burnley, and tempers understandably come to a head both on and off the pitch, what impact do you think the canceling of the march had on what happened that day? And do you think it would have been a different story and potentially a different result on the pitch if the march had gone ahead as planned?
Okay, thanks for that, Emily. Let's split that into two parts. Firstly, the impact in the result I don't think was huge. Now, I know at 1-0 down, the guy ran onto the pitch and Noble threw him off, and I think that shocked a lot of the players. But I also think it shocked some of the Burnley players as well. It's just how they reacted to that, and Burnley seemed to react better. I don't think anybody on that pitch was 100% confident that everybody wouldn't run on. So I think the people were nervous in equal measure. Also, there was a point where the referee certainly had a word with the two managers about taking all the players off the pitch. It's just the players responded differently. We've also conceded so many goals. We seem to concede 3 or 4 goals almost every week. So with that in mind, I think whether the fans in the stayed protested or not protested would be irrelevant. I think Burnley are a better team than us. I think they're tactically they're more astute. I think people like Chris Woods, Ashley Barnes, I think the two centre-backs were just better than anything we had to offer. They're just a better football team, and I think we would have lost anyway. So that's the first part of it. The second part of it, which is the question, had the march have gone ahead, would there still have been protests in the ground? You have to say no. I have to say no. I believe not. Because I think, had the march have gone ahead, there would have been an organisation to it. I think people would have, I can't remember the exact route, but I think people would have walked, firstly, a couple of miles or something like that. I think during that there would have been some speeches, and I think as part of the speeches people would have said, this is our time to protest, get it out of your system now, and we go into the ground, we go in and we support the team. And I just think there would have been some leadership and some guidance there, which was taken away. And in actual fact, what the march lost was leadership and guidance. So it was just up to a mob to try and arrange some more, which was never going to happen. But I do think it would have lessened the atmosphere in there. I also think people would have reminded everybody that it was a chance to now go in and remember Bobby Moore. But I think the crowd and the people that did run onto the pitch and did run under the director's box felt like a director's botch. Yeah. Anyway, I do think they felt like they had their march stolen from them, because there was a big build up to the march, and I think people had flags printed up and flags designed, and a lot of people travelled. I mean, we knew of somebody that had travelled from Somerset just to come because he thought there was a march. In the end, he knew there wasn't going to be a march, and we managed to sort out the match day ticket and that sort of thing, and entertain him on the boats, so it wasn't a wasted journey. But I know a lot of people came from far and wide with the intention of going to the march, and as with all of these things, you have to book quite early, and I think a lot of people did book trains and hotels and things like that. And I think it's very, very frustrated, because if you've gone to that trouble to travel such a distance, you are clearly frustrated with what's going on at the club. And I think if you then get there and the march is stolen from you, then you don't feel like you've vented properly. I also feel that with the march itself, it got very, very clouded. I think the group gathered together, a load of fans in abundance, over frustration, and big frustration, which I do think was down to the way the team was performing and lack of investment on the pitch. And for a lot of people, that was their reason for marching. And then the march got cancelled because the 5 points were achievable, and Karen Brady had gone into a meeting and said that she would look at those 5 points, and a number of which, I mean, the Memorial Garden is a great thing and an important thing to maintain, because it's people's memories, it's loved ones. But I don't think that's why a lot of people were marching. I don't think people were marching for the badge. Otherwise, we've been in there nearly 2 years and no one had done a march about the badge. I just don't think that the reasons given for cancelling the march were the reasons people were marching. So that's why people wanted to carry on and do the march, because people were saying, well, hold on, I don't care that the bridge is going to be named the West Ham Way. I don't care if you've got some legends going into the pitch at half-time. Actually, I want, as I say, the big things, which are the seating, I think investment in the squad, and why are we constantly struggling? Why have we got the cheapest manager in the league? That sort of thing. So I'm glad you gave me the opportunity to say it, because it's my last word on it, because I'm sick of talking about it, even though it probably doesn't sound like it. But I do think you had frustrated people who had the march cancelled for reasons they didn't even want. They felt their voice hadn't been heard, and that's why all that stuff in the stadium happened, be it right or wrong. Anyway, what we got now? We got Greg. Right, let's listen to what Greg has got to say.
Hi guys, Greg Richardson, Blown Bubbles magazine. This month my piece was on Patrice Evra and looking at what his signing brings to the team. He's obviously good on social media. He's clearly a good character to have around the dressing room right about now. But the article sort of explores the other merits of his signing. What I'd rather talk about though, given the events of the weekend, is a piece by Brian Williams in the magazine, which talks about the need for unity amongst the fan base right now. We're very divided, lots of people with lots of opinions on what needs to happen and what needs to be done, as evidenced by the pitch invasions and the protests against the board at the ground on Saturday. I think the majority of us would agree that whilst we understand the frustrations behind what happened, the manner in which it was done is not productive, it's not helpful, it's not how we want to be seen. And kids crying in the stand is not what West Ham is about. So with that in mind, have a look at the piece that Brian's done. Maybe give the West Ham United Independent Supporters Association a follow on Twitter, see what they've got to say, what they've got to offer in terms of helping us move forward and try and do something productive with our frustrations, as opposed to pushing past kids in high-vis jackets to throw coins at the board, because that ain't going to get us anywhere. I just want my football club back. I just want the fan base back to how I've always remembered it. So give his piece a read, see what you think, and yeah, hopefully we can move past this and this can be a turning point. Cheers. Bye.
Yeah, thanks for that, Greg, mate. Lots of points. Firstly, I know you didn't want to discuss it, but Patrice Evra, I did notice he was on the cover as well, and it's Dad's Army, which I just think is quite apt. I don't know what that signing was about at all, but we've got Masuaku back for the next game, so perhaps we won't even see Patrice Evra play another game again, in which case, you know, what a waste of money that was. However, Brian Williams' article, now, I've not read it, so I'm not going to muck around that, but I do know Brian, and Brian is one of my favourite people, I've got to say. He wrote an excellent book. He wrote an excellent book about Upton Park. If you've not seen it, I'll dig out the link. I'll put it in the thing. Really, really good book. Really good present for somebody about about history and stuff like that. He's very good. Very good author. The unity in the fan base. This is not going to be popular. There's no way to say it. I just think it's gone. I think we're too fragmented. I think it would almost take success to bring it back, and I do mean success that's relative to West Ham. We're so fragmented, and I think we're a big part of this. I think Hammers Chat are a huge part of it, because we are one group, and there are just so many groups now. So, for instance, you just have so many people that gravitate to different groups. It's amazing. You'll find that some people that will watch one thing won't watch another, or they subscribe to one website, they won't subscribe to another. You'll find people that we've got it all the time. I sometimes see people. We did a video on Hammer and Talk a little while ago, and we popped on there, and the people on Hammer and Talk hadn't heard of Hammers Chat, and we've got ones on Hammers Chat who hadn't heard of Hammer and Talk, or sometimes there's not a crossover to West Ham Fan TV and some of the other guys. You've got Irons United, you've got the Three Hammers, and that's just the YouTube stuff. We've also got situations where you've got people on West Ham Till I Die will not get on with the people that write on Claret and Hugh. People on Knees Up Mother Brown might not get on with somebody. We're so fragmented. And I noticed this, because this is just in the sort of blogging world, if you like, which obviously you guys are involved in yourselves. I noticed this when we used to do a feature on Hammers Chat called Who Are You? And the premise of Who Are You is we would try and go to the whoever, an next opposition, whatever website was most representative of them, we would get their opinion on their best players, so as we get a little insight to give our fans a little idea of who we were playing, who we should fear, where we might be successful. What became really apparent was most other clubs sort of have one supporters association and one YouTube channel, one forum, and maybe two. There's something about West Ham where we just have loads and loads and loads of voices, and I think so many voices that it's almost impossible to get a unity. And that's just the blogging world. You look on social media, people are at each other's throats. People are just constantly disagreeing at all times, and I just believe that there's an awful lot to disagree about. there are still some people that are pro-board, will think the board are doing a good job. Now, I don't. That's clear. Everybody knows what I think if you watch this channel. But I do believe that people are allowed their opinion and should have their opinion. And if you think that, then that's all well and good. But it just seems now we are at an age, and I don't think it's just West Ham, I do think this is social media. I think you could look at it in politics, you could look at it in anything, where if someone has an opposite opinion to yourself, then people are just outright rude quite a lot and just insult you, which is strange for us, because before we were a YouTube channel, before we were doing anything else, we're a forum. I mean, a lot of people you see in my videos, we've been on forum together since 2005. It was a long time. And the thing about a forum is it encourages debate. So we've all been disagreeing, yet still remaining mates for years and years and years. So it's quite a funny thing, this modern, I'd call it a philosophy, it's not really a philosophy, but this modern trend whereby people just argue with each other and then get nasty about it. And if somebody's opinion doesn't match yours, then you call them every single name under the sun. And I just think that's where we are, and that's why I believe that whilst there are subjects that are divisive, then we are always going to be divided as a fan base, because the stadium is like it is, because the move didn't go well, because we're unhappy with the ownership. It's not like being at Upton Park anymore, where everything was familiar. Everyone's trying to find their feet, everyone's trying to find their way now, and everyone's finding that they feel very, very differently about it. And a lot of people feel that the way forward is very different, as we see with the march. The march was cancelled for 5 reasons, which were important to some people and not important to other people. And I just don't think there is one unifying voice. I hear what you're saying about Wissa, and I would love there to be one supporters association that just represented everyone. But I just think it's all so divided now. I think it's next to impossible for anything to happen. But I do appreciate the sentiments. I do agree with the sentiments, what you're saying. I would love everyone to get behind the team. And I think at the start of the last game we did. I think we tried. I think everyone does sing Bubbles. As far as the children thing's concerned, well, I didn't take my son to Burnley. I actually told somebody quite high up in the club that I wasn't going to take my son to Burnley. And I was right, wasn't I? That was the right thing to do. That was the right call. He's asked to come to Southampton. And I can't take him there because I need to see for myself against Southampton whether all the new stuff has been implemented, whether the stadium is safer. I wasn't convinced by the statement. I think it might be safer for the owners. I'm not sure it's going to be particularly much safer for the fans. So I'm gonna fall on the side of caution on this one, and I'm not going to take my son to that. So that's a damning indictment, and that's very, very sad. I just think we've got to be careful. We need some wins. If we'd have scored early in that Burnley game, I think the atmosphere would have been quite different, and that is certainly going to be a case for Southampton. We need to win. We need to score early. The unity, don't know. I think the club is getting more and more toxic by the day. I really do. Okay. Bit of a sound a bit depressing, isn't it? We're usually quite upbeat on these things, but there we go. Anyway, I say thanks for giving me a chance to talk about it. I don't really want to discuss it much more after this video, unless I'm forced to, because something happens at the Southampton game. Anyway, last up, we got Lucy. I don't know if she can talk about March or anything. Let's have a listen to what Lucy's got to say.
This month, I asked whether James Collins' contract should be renewed, and of course, there are arguments for and against. The arguments for renewing his contract probably will come from the heart, and the ideas against renewing his contract come from the head. He's part of a very ageing defensive line, which is not something that we need at the moment. For a club that needs to be pushing forward, we need to be leaking less goals. Fair enough, James Collins isn't responsible for a lot of that, but our defence is something that really needs freshening up, and pretty quickly. We've got a lot of young players that we could have relied on over the last couple of seasons. It's nice to have Collins around to help bring those new players along. He's done that before. He did it very well with Reece Burke a few years ago. But do we spend money on renewing a contract when we should be spending money on getting in new players? I don't know.
Lucy, thank you for talking about the march, I guess. James Collins, that's an emotive subject, that one. I've said many times before that I'd like to keep James Collins at West Ham for as long as he wants, and when he's no longer up to the task of playing, I want him to be in the coaching department. I just think it gives a continuity and an identity which we really need at West Ham. So if I was in charge, there would always be a job for James Collins at West Ham. I think as far as the playing side's concerned, I think every time we write him off, he often comes back and he does a man of the match performance. So I don't think he's ready to be put out to pasture just yet. So keep him on as a player, give him another year deal, and then just ask James. Say, is that okay if we give you a sort of rolling contract, and then when you're done, we move you onto the coaching side of things, and then you can start to do coaching badges. I don't know him. I met him once to say hello and shook his hand, and that's it. I don't know him at all, so I don't know whether he would say yes to that, but I would hope so, and he may well do. That's that. In terms of the defence itself, it's a bit of a worrying issue, actually, because we play defensive football. Moyes plays defensive football, and it doesn't work. It doesn't work. He packs that defence. Often there'd be one guy isolated up on his own. It takes a long time for the rest of the team to move forward and to support that isolated player, be it Chicharito, be it Arnautovic, whoever is up top at any given time. Which means we've got 9 guys back defending for a lot of the game. Now, I think fans would accept that if we were keeping clean sheets. I think if what we were doing is we were keeping it tight, then we would know that actually we can nick a goal. But that doesn't happen. We concede, as I said earlier on in the video, we'll concede 3 goals, we'll concede 4 goals on a regular basis. Not a freak, it happens loads. Scroll down the fixture list. I can't recall it all off the top of my head. Scroll down the fixture list. You will see 3s, 4s, 3s, 4s, 3s, 4s in the goals against column for us. So the tactic is not working. Actually, I don't think he's any more defensively stable than when Bilic was here. So with that question, and with that in mind, why on earth would we continue to play defensive football? Why doesn't Moyes play attacking football? I think Moyes or any defensive manager would probably argue that the reason they don't play attacking football, all-out attack, is in case they concede some goals. Well, you know what, Dave? You're conceding the goals anyway, mate. You are conceding 3 or 4 goals a game. You might as well commit more men forward. I don't know why it is. Maybe it's just an outdated system that other people have got around. Maybe coaching has just moved on. It didn't work at Sunderland. It didn't particularly work at Villarreal. Was it Real Sociedad? I can't even remember. Someone will correct me on this. Wherever it was, probably wasn't Villarreal actually, was it? But wherever it was in Spain, it didn't work there. And I also don't think it worked particularly well for him at Man United either, when he was able to spend, I think he spent 30 odd million on Mata. 30 million now is not a lot of money, but whatever it was 4 years ago, it was, and he certainly had a budget to do it. Plus he had some pretty damn good players there who had just won the league the previous season. So maybe his tactics are just outdated. Maybe coaching has moved on. And my point is, he might consider himself to be a defensively solid manager. He ain't. He just ain't. If that's what's happening in the training ground, week in, week out, he is working on defensive solidity, defensive structure, set plays, defending crosses, shielding the back four. It ain't working. It's not worked. What he is doing in training does not work. And I just feel that it's that rather than James Collins or whoever else that is to blame. And I think it's shown by... It doesn't matter if Winston Reid comes in or Bonner comes in, Collins in there, Rice plays at the back. It doesn't matter who plays in that system. We concede lots of goals, which surely suggests that the system is flawed rather than the players, because I do think we've got some very, very good players. I'm damn, if we're playing 4-4-2, I'm pretty damn sure in terms of a young player in Rice and experienced player in Bonner, you could make a pretty damn good defensive pairing out of those two. Anyway, that's it. Thank you for that, Lucy. Thank you very much indeed. Of course, thank you to David. Thank you to Emily. And thank you to Greg. You can see that I don't dodge issues in the Blowing Bubbles. It's a bloody good read. It's I read it in a toilet. That's no reflection on the quality of the magazine, of course. So yeah, there'll be links below on how you can either view that online. It's on our app as well. It's the Hammers Chat app, which is called West Ham app. If you look for our logo, wherever that is, if you can see it, it's up there. You know the Hammers Chat logo, crossed hammers, little square, HC in the middle. If you look for that on the iPhone apps, the App Store, the Android Store, the Play Store, Play Shop, who knows? Play Shop sounds like something that Golden Sullivan would do. Anyway, thank you for watching. See you next time. Hopefully we'll have something to cheer about. We'll be back with lots more videos. Thank you to everybody that's sent in their videos. If you've got something you want to say, send your clips to info@hammerschat.com. You get to have your say, your shout. Look down these list of videos. You'll see lots of people on there. All they've done is they've sent in their videos. You can have a little rant if you want. Whinge about anything. Praise something. Who knows? Not a lot to praise. Anyway, thank you.